Hello, everybody. We are back again for part 3 tips for how to not go crazy while being homebound. The goal of this video is going to be to talk about how different forms of mindfulness practices can help you manage living with a chronic illness. Alright, so what is mindfulness? Well, I don't really know what mindfulness is, but I'll tell you what I think it is. I think the general goal of mindfulness is to learn to guide your mind towards peace. I don't think we can control the mind, but that we do have the power to influence ourselves or push ourselves in a general direction. Now, at the same time, I think it is important to recognize that everyone comes into this world with a different set of inner battles. And I do see mental health the same as physical health, in the sense that there are steps that you can take to improve your mental or physical health, but there are always inherent factors that are outside of our control. Really, this video applies for anybody. It's not about if you're homebound or not. This is a little bit more broad of a topic, but when you are homebound, then I think these practices are especially important for keeping yourself in a stable and hopefully pleasant mindset despite what is going on with your illness. So here we go. One, guard the gates of your mind and do your best to keep any negativity out of your life. So what I mean by this is to take the time and the energy to think about what kind of media are you allowing yourself to view. If you're watching a bunch of sad or scary, depressing movies or TV shows or books, it's possible that may be adding extra negativity into your life that you don't need. And I think there's nothing wrong with watching those types of films or anything like that. But when you yourself are in a place where you're extra vulnerable due to your physical illness and the stress of it, those types of smaller things can impact you much more than it otherwise would. This also includes people, and this can be really difficult. I know I have a really hard time managing this when it comes to people because there are many people in your life that love you and care about you and are trying their very best to help you cope with your chronic illness, but it just may be that the way that they're doing it is negatively impacting you, and it's somehow making you feel worse about yourself or the situation. So when you're under these extra times of stress, you definitely have to take the steps to try and set your boundaries with these these types of people. And do it nicely, without hurting anybody's feelings. Just explain to people that you need space. Another way that negativity may be seeping into your life could be through things like social media. You may find that scrolling through your Facebook feed and seeing all of your friends moving on and doing things with their life that you may not be able to, that may be hurtful to you. I know I went through a period of time where I had those feelings, and now I'm not bothered by that, but I do have other stresses related to social media, so that is something that I take out of my life when I'm going through an extra physical struggle, which ultimately does mean that you will be going through an extra mental or emotional struggle, because there's no way for anybody to experience, a physical problem without having to process it and go through it emotionally and mentally. At least that's my theory. I don't know. Maybe some people have the capability to sort through things in a different way that I don't understand. That leads me on to the next tip. Alright? Allow yourself to feel all of your emotions. In my experience, you have to give yourself the space, the time, and the energy to feel negative emotions before you can work through them and get to the other side. For some reason, I do think our society tends to push away emotions to such an extent that it ends up making the emotional problems worse for us, because you can't ignore your feelings. That will just repress them. You have to go there and feel it and acknowledge it. Really, that's what it is, I think. It's the acknowledging it, thinking to yourself, okay, yes, I do actually feel really sad about this, or really angry, whatever it is. Once you can acknowledge it to yourself, then you can try and figure out, well, why do I feel this way, Is this a rational feeling or an irrational feeling? And if it's a rational feeling, then feel it. Feel it all. Take it all in. It's my belief. And, take it to the nth degree, cry your eyes out. As long as your emotions are not impacting others, you can pretty much do whatever you need to do to work through them. I find that writing or voice recordings really helps me just dump all that negativity out. Get it out. And then a lot of the times I think you will find that once you dump it out, it's gone. And then you can just realize, oh, okay, I just needed to go there. I just needed to feel that and allow yourself to feel it. Too often, I think we're told not to allow ourselves to have these feelings. Especially when this comes to being a young woman who is sick. I think, most young people who are sick have been through a period of time where they were told that their physical symptoms were all in their head, and that really they must just have some type of an emotional a mental problem. And when you're continuously and continuously told that over and over again, I think that sometimes can cause people to further repress their actual feelings, because at least I know there have been times in my life where I actually found myself starting to have a fear of having a feeling or expressing myself, because I was so concerned that somebody might say that my mental or emotional state was somehow responsible for the actual physical problems that I experience on a daily basis. And just, even though that thought is so far at the back of my mind and it's not how I think every day, I do know that it has come up in my life. And I don't want anybody else to have that feeling, because we are human beings, and human beings have emotions, and we feel, and nobody should ever have to feel like they are not allowed to feel. So I got some quotes here that really express this, I think, in a better way than my own words. I understand now that I'm not a mess, but a deeply feeling person in a messy world. I explain that now. When someone asks me why I cry so often, for the same reason I laugh so often, because I'm paying attention. Janan Doyle Melton, who is an advocate for... I actually don't know what she is an advocate for. But I like this quote. Here's another one. This is one of those things on the internet where you don't really know who said it, but alright. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to scream, but don't give up. I think that's great. Yes, understanding that you are allowed to have your feelings, have your emotional breakdowns, that's okay. That's normal. And don't ever let somebody tell you that that is not okay. Because as long as you're not doing harm to yourself or to others. Okay. I don't really have anything else to say about that. Got really into that clearly. Now, I do try and stay away from other people, because as helpful as other people can be, I also think if you're in a place where you're strong enough to try and sort through things like this on your own, it does work out a lot better. A lot of the time, I just think it's easier for individuals to do it themselves, because nobody's inside your mind other than you. So you can try and explain the whole situation to other people, you can do your best to communicate it, but at a certain level, nobody will ever truly understand all of the complexities and the nuances that are you, other than you. So, do seek help if you need help, though. It's okay. That's okay too. Wherever, don't be afraid to seek support when you need it. But evaluate yourself to see if you really need it or not. Now hopefully you're not chronically in a state of negativity. This tip is about accepting the negativity and learning to work with it and use it to your advantage, because once you work through these types of things, you will have learned something about yourself. You will have learned something about the world that will make you ultimately a better person. So, now hopefully you're not spending the majority of your time dealing with the negativity. It's ideal that you would be in a place where you would be spending more of your time trying to bring in positivity into your life. But everybody starts out their journey at a different place, and it doesn't matter where you're starting as long as you're making progress towards a better direction. So this brings me towards tip number 3. Which is try to learn how to redirect your attention towards love. And I'll tell you, the reason why I came up with this phrase and way of saying this is because I was struggling with many people telling me continuously to have a positive attitude. You know? When somebody says, like, when you come to somebody with some type of complaint or feeling that's affecting your life, and they say to you, oh, well, just, hope for the best, just try and stay positive. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out why this was making me so angry, Because, on the one hand, it's great advice. I agree. I really do. But yet, I also want to punch you in the face. I mean, this is not I do appreciate everybody that's tried to give me advice. And I know it's coming from the bottom of your heart. If you've said that to me, I still love you. But, yeah, so after thinking about this for months and months, I realized the reason why it's so upsetting is because nobody was explaining how to do it. So, obviously it's going to make me feel worse, or anybody who's had that comment made to them, because it's like, well, great. You know that you want to be more positive, but you don't know how. And here's somebody just telling you to do it, and then you start to think to yourself, well, I don't know how to do this. Gosh, am I a failure or something over here? I can't figure this out. And it just snowballs and makes the whole problem feel worse in so many different ways. This is perhaps the most important part of the video, which is how to actually bring more positivity into your life. And there are so many ways, hundreds and hundreds of ways out there. You can do lots of searches on mindfulness practices, and you could go crazy on this. But my belief is that you want to keep it simple, and you want to make sure that it's something that you're actually going to do. That you'll remember it, that you'll actually do it, that it's not too complicated, and it's something that you can start right now, today. Here are a couple things that I've been working with over the last couple years that have actually really stuck with me. Out of the dozens of things that I've tried, these are the ones that I actually remember to do. I feel better when I do them. I remember to do them relatively regularly, and they don't take very long at all. The first one is practicing gratefulness. Sounds so simple. So practicing gratefulness and gratitude. This can be a really good way to get yourself over some type of negative emotional slump that you're in. Because no matter how bad things are, there's always something to be grateful for. And I think it's best if you just kind of work this into your life in a certain way. So for me, I try and make it the first thing that I think about every morning. I really like doing it at the beginning of my day because it kind of helps me set the tone for the rest of for the whole day, pretty much, and it also reminds me to do it. Now, I don't actually do it every day. Interestingly, I find myself remembering to do it when I wake up feeling bad. Physically, emotionally, mentally, just any type of bad feeling that I have when I wake up. I've trained myself, I guess, to try feeling grateful for something before I deal with whatever that thing is, because it will ultimately make it easier to deal with. In general, you just want to think of one thing or a few. You don't have to go crazy. Sometimes I keep a list, but it doesn't really matter. I think it's just more about popping that thought into your mind as often as you can, because okay. So the other thing that's really stuck with me is I listened to an audiobook by James Doughty. I will try and add the link in the comments, but from this book I learned to remind myself every single day of what my true intentions are. Now, the easiest way to do this is to write a list of 10 things that you want to be, do, have, or experience, anything like that, in your lifetime. Now, when you're making this list, you have to imagine your life with no barriers. None. It cannot be a part of your true intentions. Once you have those 10 things, and you know what, you can always change them. Don't get too hung up on it. If you can only think of 3, that's fine. If you think of 15, you can't narrow it down, that's fine too. It doesn't really matter. I think 10 is just like a good number that works for a lot of people, but do whatever works. That's the whole point of this. Anything is better than nothing here. Just reminding yourself of your true self and your deepest desires to have and experience the life that you want. It kind of helps train your mind to do what you need to do to get those things. That's at least my understanding of it. I think especially when you have a chronic illness or a physical disability that can sometimes make you feel like your life is maybe more limited than somebody else's. This is a good reminder to yourself that anything is possible that you set your mind to. There's always a way to get what you want. It just may be you will get it in a way that you didn't imagine it to be in the first place. The other mindfulness practice that has really stuck with me is a tip that I learned from Sharon Salzberg, who is a meditation and mindfulness coach and speaker. I'll also add that link in the comments to her website or books. I'll find something that'll get you to her because she's really great. She taught me this concept of love and kindness practice. It's a variation of meditative practice that instead of you directing your mind towards the nothingness, the general way that we think of meditation, you actually try and focus your mind on love and kindness. But the tip that really stuck with me from her is that when you want to implement these practices into your life, you want to link them with something that you do on a daily basis so that you'll remember to do them. So for her, she talked about how she tries to do the love and kindness practice whenever she's traveling. So like in a car, or plane, or walking, or getting from A to B, she's thinking about love and kindness, and I started to really do that a lot too myself. I found that it's a really good use of my time. I was actually more productive thinking about love and kindness than trying to multitask and look at random social media scrolls on my phone that don't really mean anything. You could link love and kindness to, any number of things. Maybe brushing your teeth. I've linked things to brushing my teeth or taking a shower. Let's see. I think those are some of the best ones because there are times when you're by yourself and you're not really interacting with anybody, but they reoccur on a regular basis. I hope that this video has given you an idea of where to start with bringing mindfulness into your life. And again, just emphasizing that this is just what works for me, and I would love to hear what works for everybody else. There's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that I'm still learning, but I'm excited for the future, and I'm always continuously trying to improve my experience of life. So if you have any other tips or tricks that you've come across for mindfulness, or if you want to share your story of how mindfulness practice has impacted your life with chronic illness, I would really love to hear from you. Thank you all for watching. I think that I will be making a blog post about this that will be on the Embrace the Brace website. So I'll for sure include all of the necessary links to all of these different practices and the books that I read and all that kind of stuff will be in the blog post. I'm not quite sure if this is the last video or on tips for being homebound or if I'm going to make another one. Something that's been on my mind a lot lately is that I don't really want this channel and my blog to be thought of as me giving advice, because I know that the tagline is how to live with Ehlers Danlos syndrome, which kind of makes it sound like this is like a guide. And honestly, when I created the blog and everything, I didn't know where it was going, and I didn't really know what it was. That was just the first thing that popped up into my mind, like the most basic, generic tagline. So I am working on trying to come up with a new message that would hopefully make this be more of a community type of a project and not me telling anybody what they should or shouldn't be doing, because I don't know and I make a lot of mistakes. Maybe you guys have some ideas for what the new tagline should be, or what kind of direction you think I should take this whole project in. I'm also going to be getting back to doing more informational topics that are less personal, at least.